Hello, friends. My name is Dave Trotter with Awaken Magazine, and so excited to be here today. Today is launch day of what we call launch week for the Awakened Hearts book. I got the digital version on this side and the real version on this side. And we're so excited to be able to launch this incredible resource out into the world today. It's available at awakenedheartsbook.com. And we are hosting each day of this week live stream author interviews with an opportunity for you to get to know some of the 32 contributing authors who have shared their inspiring stories of awakening in this incredible anthology book. So today, I'm excited to have with me Laura Muirhead, Christina L. Woods, and Michelle Hayes. Welcome, guys. Great to have you.
Hello.
Hello. So honored to be here.
Really
Yeah.
exciting.
So today I want to give you an opportunity as viewers and listeners a chance to get to know them, hear a little bit about what they do, how they serve the world, their thoughts on awakening, the writing process, what their hopes are for the book. And in the process, we want to invite you to head on over and get the book at awakenedheartsbook.com. It's available on Amazon, ebook, paperback, and hardback. Okay, so let's get started here with a question that I'm curious about. I want people to know about you is tell us a little bit about yourself and how you are serving people in the world. And you may be serving people in a capacity as a healer or a coach full-time. You also might have a quote unquote day job. But we want to hear about all of it. So Laura, would you mind going first? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, David. It's so great to be here with everyone. And I'm so excited for this book to launch today. I am a best-selling author, a speaker. I'm a podcast host, and I'm also the CFO of our family's business. I am the creator of the Queen Code. It's my signature program. So whether it's through my writing, coaching, speaking, I support others in living life with more ease, intention, and truth.
Wonderful. And where do you live? You don't have to tell us your address, but maybe your the state or something.
I usually live in New Jersey. We also have a home in Michigan, and today I'm in my home in Michigan.
Wonderful. Wonderful. It's great to have you with us. Thanks for being here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Michelle, tell us about yourself.
Hello, everyone. How are you? I am Michelle Hayes. I am a marriage coach, but more than that, I'm someone that walked through the fire of having to unlearn everything that I believed about love. And that's what brought me to want to have a mission to help other people just like you transform your marriage and your life in every sense, because love is the threshold of all beautiful things. I speak, I have a podcast, I am a columnist, I'm now an author, and I'm so excited to just be serving in this world.
And love is just a feeling, right, Michelle?
No, love is a choice. Love is a decision. And I help deeply committed couples who really want to elevate their mindset and the dynamics in their relationships and unlearn some of those unrealistic expectations that we all have.
Yeah. And did you say where you live?
My home is in Florida, but I also have a summer home in Michigan, in Sheboygan, and I am currently at my home in Michigan. And it was really nice because yesterday was the first nice day. I mean, a hot day.
That is so wonderful. That is so interesting to have a home in Florida and then a home in Michigan. Most people do the opposite, right? They live in Michigan and then they have the home in Florida to
Yes.
go away in the summer. But I guess you get to be away from all those crazy Florida tourists too. So,
oh, it's absolutely, well, no, I'm actually in Florida during the winter. And I'm up here in Michigan in the summer. So I do have a lot of that traffic going in and out for sure.
It's so funny. Yesterday, Mandy and I were out for a bike ride along the boardwalk here in Newport Beach. And, it's just packed with tourists, and it's so easy to be like, these crazy tourists, and it's like, well, these are the people that are bringing so much money and energy into the economy,
Yes.
and be
Yes.
thankful for all these great visitors. So it's great to
Well,
have you, Michelle.
thank you so much for having
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Christina L.
Hi.
Woods.
Don't forget the L, David. Thank you.
Yeah. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm in Orange County in Huntington Beach, California, not too far from where you took that bike ride. And I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, a certified high performance coach, and an intuitive healer. And I did not always do this. I had a 35 corporate life before this. And I get to serve women globally all over the world. And my focus is on really helping them shed beliefs around perfectionism and getting rid of burnout, and just really helping them find their voice and their presence and living in the now. And it's absolutely incredible. I'm the CEO and founder of my new business, which is Wise Woods Hypnotherapy and Coaching and Intuitive Healing. And I do it virtually all over. So I work with groups and one-on-one, and it's really been a whole new venture, whole new chapter in my life.
Wonderful. It's great to have you. All right. Well, hey, let's chat for a moment about this concept of awakening or being awakened. And by the way, I don't know if you can see this.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, I love that.
I
Yeah.
love this shirt. And I got it in the mail, and Mandy's like, "You look like you're a grandma wearing that shirt with
Oh,
the
no, you
flowers." I'm like, I'm gonna wear this everywhere now.
I
You're
will.
rocking
She
it.
said that. So obviously, the name of our magazine is Awakened Magazine. I have loved this term "awakened" for so many years. I've literally used it, Awakened Media, for all of my film projects that I've done previously, and obviously, the book is called Awakened Hearts, and but this term "awakened" or "awakening" can mean so many different things to different people, and so I'm just curious about your take on what does the term awakened mean. So, Christina, would you mind going first and
Yeah.
letting us hear what your thoughts are?
Yeah, uh, it's the name of my chapter, actually, Invited to Remember. So I think it's remembering. I think it's, awakening could be a spiritual awakening. It could be, this awakening of who we are. But even in the work that I do, whether it's hypnotherapy or energy healing, I think it's always just remembering in our soul who we are, awakening to who we're meant to be, our intuition, trusting ourselves, loving ourselves. So awakening to me is, the journey that I write about and talk about, that I want people, is just to remember who you are. So awaken to the most beautiful, authentic you. Awaken to life and love and authenticity. And so awakening to shedding all the stuff that stops us from just remembering all the beautiful things of life and who we are.
What would you say is the opposite of awakened based on your definition of awakened?
When we're dimming, so when we're buried and dimmed. And so I guess the word I would use is, I guess kind of like that dimmed energy of hiding, or feeling small, or that essence of, I'm less than, or not enough, or yeah, living in a shell of something other than what we're supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Laura, tell us, what is your perspective on the word awakened? What does it mean to you?
Well, I agree a lot with what Christina already said. To me, it's, living with your heart and your eyes more open, um, being authentic for sure, just living your authentic self, ta tapping into your intuition and trusting that, and really, being who you are. Exactly. You pretty much took the words out of my mouth.
Mm.
And living in alignment with the things, saying yes to the things that feel aligned to what you're trying to do, to what you're trying to accomplish in this life. And that can change over time, but saying yes to what's aligned can really open a lot of doors. And then I just want to add to that the idea of gratitude,
Mm.
showing up and noticing the things that you can be grateful for in your life.
Hmm. Laura, do you sense that we awaken one time or multiple times over the course of our life?
Well, for me, and this is what my chapter, of course, is about. For me, it wasn't just one, big bang moment. For me, it was different things, different experiences over my lifetime. I've had so many different twists in the road throughout my life, and I think all of them have been opportunities to learn and grow and to awaken more. And of course, that's why always say if anything happened on the way to my life, which is the title of my memoir. So yeah, I think that it's a journey of a lifetime. I don't, for me, from my view.
Mhm. For those of you who have not had the chance to watch, I interviewed Laura, and she's featured on the cover of Awaken magazine several weeks ago. And so she's got a very fascinating story of all the different amazing ups, downs, twists, and turns, from building a horse stable. Would you call it a stable?
Mhm.
To your house burning down, to winning the lottery, to, oh my gosh, so many different things. So that was a very fun conversation. Encourage you guys to check it out. Michelle, tell me from your perspective, what does the term awakened mean to you?
To me, awakened means that moment that all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, why didn't I realize this before? But we're all on different journeys. And sometimes we have to go through certain things to understand. Like, I was so busy proving and performing in order to want to be loved. And then there was failed relationships and divorce. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm the common denominator here. Self-awareness is so powerful. And a lot of us, we do a lot of looking outward, when one of the most important things that we could do for ourselves is to look within.
Yes. Talk to me about your own life and how your life is different having gone through an awakening process. What is different for you? Or, yeah, how would you describe life, kind of like before and then after now? Christina, would you mind? Or Michelle, did you want to jump in on that? Go for
No,
it.
no, I thought you were asking me, but go ahead,
Yeah, no, no,
Christina.
no. No, go for it, Michelle.
Okay. So for me, I look back and I think to myself, okay, my life is so different. This happened to me actually yesterday. Someone asked me why I got divorced from my first husband. And I paused and I was like, years ago, I would have said he was selfish, he was self-centered, he took me for granted, and all of these negative things. And I shared that with her. And I said, but today, I feel like my life is so much richer and so much more filled with love and understanding and peace. And that's the thing that changes when you have an awakening. Whatever your awakening is, it's different for everyone, obviously.
Yeah.
But for me, the fact that I can share my journey with the world now, I get the chills, because I just want everyone to have that feeling of awakening, because it's like nothing else once you have one, or several, as Laura said.
Yeah. How about you, Christina? What would you say to that?
I think it's such a healing process, that it's everything Michelle just said, and to add to it, it's also, to live without. For me, it was a lot of to live without the shame, to live without a lot of pain, to live without some of those things that I was carrying. So what that meant was to live with, compassion for myself, for the mistakes I'd made in life, for those things in life. So that's a paradigm shift for divorce, for pain, for, wow, the things way I may have raised my children, or the things I said to people, or mistakes you make in life. So an awakening was, wow, I get to look at life and not perform and not shame myself, or look at life in those ways, and to say, look at all these beautiful lessons now, and allow myself to not be the perfect person, but have so much more compassion, and know these things are happening for me. And yes, sometimes, you have to hit yourself in the head and say, I know it's happening for me, but it's an awakening where you do have a paradigm shift, and you don't, I'm not, you don't carry a lot of the lessons, the shame and some of the pain anymore. You do look at it so much differently, and more in an enlightened way, that just allows you to embrace life's gifts in such a lighter way.
How about you, Laura? As you think about kind of as you talked about in your chapter and in our conversation, you've had multiple, kind of awakenings, but how would you describe life now differently than a previous season of life?
Well, I agree with both Christina and Michelle again. I think there's a level of knowing yourself more, being, do I dare say the word confident, being more confident in who you are, because you're being more authentic, but also for me, and especially over the past several years of learning to work more with energy and learning to be a energy healer and being more aware of energy. I A lot of times now, if something happens, if somebody kind of goes off on you or is mad at you, I can see it. That it's them.
Mhm.
It's them having an issue more than me having an issue, that their own things are being stirred up in their own lives, especially when you know that what you're doing isn't the problem. You're doing something. I had a situation a few months ago where I was really trying to do something good, for the community, and somebody kicked off about it, and I could see it for what it was. It wasn't. There's a fear. There was so depending on where they're at in their own life and in their own journey, sometimes those things are coming up for them, but it's really not about you. And if you can see things that way, and I'm not saying to be arrogant about it and be like, oh, that's always them and not me. Um, but when you are legitimately doing something aligned and something that you're for the good of, the greater good, and somebody's having an issue with it, a lot of times if you can step back and look at the big picture and say, you know maybe I was a trigger for them for some reason, and maybe there's a lesson in it for them. So yeah, and again, just for me, staying in my truth and living authentically has really made a huge difference.
I think it's fascinating how we can have these experiences of awakening in all the different categories of life. So oftentimes people think about spirituality and that being an area of awakening, to go, okay, well, that which is seen is not all that there is. There is an unseen world that is operating, right? Whether you believe that's God, the divine source, spirit, energy, whatever it might be. But then also an awakening in terms of, I'm hearing a number of you speak about identity issues. So, oh, I was operating under the programming of society, culture, trauma, my parents, whatever it might be. And so now I'm having this awakening that I can actually choose who I want to be.
Mhm.
Or maybe it's an awakening in terms of our finances. Oh, I am operating in lack rather than in abundance, and I can have an awakening in that area of my life. Maybe it's an awakening in terms of relationships. Oh, as Michelle said, I'm the common denominator in all of these challenging situations.
Yeah, how do you want to show up is a big question
Yeah,
in all of these things.
Yeah.
How do
right.
we want to show up in finances? How do we want to show up in love? How do we want to show up in our spirituality? It's up to us.
Yeah. I was telling you earlier, obviously, Mandy and I were riding down the boardwalk, and I saw this dad with some teenage kids, dragging the chairs behind, and they kind of had a teenage kid face on. And I said, man, I don't know why, but right now in this moment, I'm having this strong awareness of how much our lives are shaped by the choices and interests of our parents.
Oh,
Whether they do, my parents were not like beach people, so we didn't live. We lived in Kentucky when I was growing up, but yeah, we went to the beach a couple times in San Diego, a couple of times in Panama City. That shaped like me. My parents, whether choices around food or spirituality or the way you interact with people, just even interests, like things that you're interested in, that so many of us kind of stay in that same path or,
Mhm.
programming or rut of our home of origin. And it seems like the only way to get out of that is either through kind of rebellion, like I hated the way that my parents did this, so I'm not gonna do what they did. Then you end up later in life going, geez, I'm kind of like a parent, like my parents were. This is weird. Um, uh, or a conscious choice, a conscious choice. And I went
yes.
through a major life transition in 2008, and I started asking myself. I said, okay, I want to raise my awareness of as many assumptions as I can in my life, and I started asking, well, why am I doing this right now?
Mhm.
Why am I wearing these types of clothes? Why am I eating this type of food? Why am I going to this place? Do I want to? Is this my choice? Or am I
Mhm.
doing it out of habit? Am I doing it out of just this is what I've always done or this is what was modeled to me? And is there actually a different um, desire bubbling up inside of me?
Mhm.
The other day, I said to Mandy, I said, I really would like to go to a jazz club and just have dinner and listen to jazz music. And I go, I'm nervous to bring that up to you because that's not something we've done before. And that's not what we do. But I'm having this desire. And would you be open to that? That sounds like so minuscule. But for so many of us, we don't pay attention to those little desires of our heart, and then we just live like we've always lived, kind of more in a rut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how we're expected to live. Like we live under everyone's expectations as well. What our
Mhm.
spouses expect of us, we did definitely have that part. Everything influences what we do.
Yeah, and so the awakening in all these different areas of life is kind of, okay, what am I not awake to? Is there something I can't see? But also, becoming awake to, like, who do I wanna be? And, like, conscious choice. So, Christina, I'm curious about hypnotherapy and how
Mhm.
that helps with some of the things that I'm talking about here.
It's such a big one because this idea of like we get to choose our energy, we get to make the choice of who we want to be, yet we all have programs, we all have, the familiar programs. And so what's so nice about hypnotherapy is it quiets all that analytical critical stuff, that we are so influenced by our parents, our society, our communities. And so that even combined with some energy work, but just strictly hypnotherapy. And we get to just say, okay, what are all those programs that are really just covering up all the real choices that you really want to make?
Mhm.
And it's so fun because every day I get calls. Just yesterday, I got a call from someone that says, I can't explain it, but it's like I'm driving the same car and you just clean the windows on my car. I'm not driving a different car, you just clean the windows. It's like the windows aren't as dirty, which
That's a
just
great
really.
analogy.
Yeah, because it's like I'm seeing, but I'm seeing more clear what I want. I'm gonna do what I want with more clarity, so I'm making more choices that are more aligned with what I want, and so all that stuff is just falling aside so he can make the choices that he wants to make, and so and all the programs are starting to shed, like, "Well, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that." Dad doesn't do that, a mom doesn't do that, whatever. Why are you doing that? Why are you wearing that? You're too old for
Mm.
that. You won't make money doing that. There's a lot of people that say, I can't make money doing that. Well, is that even true? Is that even true?
Mhm.
Probably not, right? So
Well, hey, if you're just joining us, I want to draw to your attention. We are launching this week the Awaken Heart anthology book featuring 32 stories of awakening. And this is just a beautiful hardback version. I love this so much. It's got the wonderful pictures of the contributors here on the inside book flaps, and the book is beautifully laid out. There's a chapter here by Greta Chamberlain. Our conversations here today and all week are some live streamed author interviews, and you can get that book at awakenedheartsbook.com. The ebook, paperback, and hardback are available there. I want to hear a little bit about the stories that you wrote in the book, the actual writing process. What was it like to write your chapter? And I know some of you have written other things previously, but particularly, what was it like to write this chapter? And maybe tell us about your own writing process, where you write, when you write, how you write, that kind of thing. So, Laura, would you mind going first? What was it like to write this chapter for you?
Sure. Excuse me. I really enjoyed writing this chapter. For me, the way I write, and I don't necessarily intend for it to be this way, it just is this way. I tend to think about, like, for example, for this book, awakening. Okay, like, put that into my thought process, and what can I write about? And so that starts to stir. And what tends to happen is that I'll, in that sort of a not quite awake state in the morning, I start to think more, the words start to come into my head. They start to swirl around more. And frequently what'll happen, and you can ask my husband, it might be, 5 a.m. when I kind of jump out of bed and go grab my laptop, and he'll be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I have to write this chapter right now before I lose the words." So frequently that's what happened. And I think for me, especially with this chapter, at first, because so many of us expect, talk about expectations, someone to say, "Oh, one day I was this, and the next day I was this. I had an awakening and I was this." And it didn't work that way for me. So there was a challenge presented in a way of, okay, what was it like for me? What was it for me? And so again, for me, it was more of a lifelong journey. And from childhood, being part of multiple religions and experiencing that, and then again, just going through so many different phases of my life, and especially in the past several years, again, working on energy and learning more about energy and spirituality in a different way, and working with mentors in that area. It was a different, interesting process for me, and I enjoyed it, and enjoyed thinking back, and sort of having a little detective work, maybe, as far as, what do I want to say in this chapter, and what can I say that would potentially inspire others. I frequently, that's my goal, with what I write, is hopefully it'll touch someone in some way or inspire them. And that's my goal. So I enjoyed writing this chapter, and that's kind of how I work in general.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. How about you, Michelle? What was it like for you writing this chapter, like in terms of your heart, your mind? Maybe tell us when you write, how that flows for you.
Well, for me, it was very raw at times. Like, there were times that I write very authentically. Like, my process is usually write everything that you're feeling, thinking. All the thoughts go down on paper, or actually on my computer. And then from there, I walk away usually, because during that time when I'm so, emotionally connected to what I'm writing, it's not the time for me to start editing and trying to make things, look good or sound better. I just kind of put it all down. And then a couple of days later, I come back to it and I read it. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh no, that's not what I meant to say. And then I'll refine what I said in a more sometimes poetic way. Like, I try to find something that might touch someone else's heart so that they don't feel alone. And then I walk away again, and then I read it from a reader's point of view. Like, what if I was just not knowing me and I was reading this? Would this stir any emotion inside?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I write, and it's how I enjoy it the most. But this process was just so many different things. It was a pleasure to work with everybody who helped me create this chapter, the editors and the copywriters and you, David. And it was, there were little bumps along the road and stuff like that. And my text sometimes, I think I texted you one day and I said, you love your favorite challenged writer, something like that. But it was one of the most fulfilling experiences that I've had writing, for sure.
Wonderful, wonderful. Christina, how about for you? What was the process like for you writing your chapter, giving birth to that? And maybe tell us a little bit more about your writing process.
Yeah, it was mixed between scary and vulnerable and gosh, a lot of emotions. I journal a lot, so I just wrote everything down like I was talking. So just a big bleh of everything in no particular order. So of course, you got to make sense of it later. But
Do you handwrite? Like, did you
yeah,
handwrite? Yeah.
yeah, I did handwrite it first because it's just more of like a channel writing and process for me at first, and doesn't probably make a lot of sense at first. And then I'll type it out and really have to come back to it and say, well, this happened first, and put it in sort of an order. But honestly, what I shared was something I actually haven't shared even with a lot of family members. So it was a big healing process and journey for me. And yet I knew it was something I felt that I wanted other people to read about. And I had to understand why, why do I feel that other women or people would be inspired or awakened by this? So I had to come to terms and figure that out. But there was a little girl inside me that sometimes said, are you sure? Are you going to get in trouble? Are you allowed to do this? So, but the process was a lot of journaling. I also get very inspired when I meditate and when I chant. And so there was a lot of pausing meditations, and I get inspired and I got to write something would come to me. This is the first chapter I've ever written. So a lot of it was, okay, I didn't see that coming. I didn't know I'd be blow drying my hair and have to pause and write something down. So it was really, really beautiful and very emotional.
The chanting, tell us more about that. Is that part of your regular spiritual practice? And if so, what do you chant?
Yeah, I chant Hindu chants, and it is part of my spiritual practice. And isn't anything, it's been a couple years now, but in the morning, in the evening, actually, I do it kind of a lot. So, but primarily in the morning. So, yeah, I started a couple years ago, and a coach actually recommended it. Not a particularly spiritual coach, actually, for finances and opening abundance. And then from there, a girlfriend of mine got me even more into it. And it's just something that feels so good and so grounding. And it's ceremonial. I use scents and aromas, and sometimes I'll drum. And it's when I don't do it, I notice. And I notice that I feel a lot better when I do it. My voice is activated. It's just something that feels so good to my soul.
Is there a short chant that you could actually share with us, or would you rather hold off on that?
Yeah, I mean, probably one of the shortest chants that I do is the root chakra chant, Ganesha Shadanam, Shadanam Ganesha.
What is it in like English translated?
Gosh, I don't know. I
Okay,
got
no
to look
worries.
it up, honestly.
No worries.
But 108 times for 40 days. So I'll use, mala beads, or sometimes I can't find them and I won't do that. But 108 times, that's probably the quickest one. And, you can find them on Insight Timer, even a lot of them for free. But yeah, they're really beautiful.
Do you mind just doing it just for a moment?
Sure. So Ganesha Shadanam, Shadanam Ganesha, Ganesha Sharanam, Sharanam Ganesha. Ganesha Sharanam, Sharanam Ganesha.
Mhm.
That was
And you'll
great.
do that 108 times.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
I can see it feeling very centering, very grounding.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And some of them are really long and they're really beautiful. So,
Thank you for sharing that with us.
yeah.
Yeah. What are your hopes for Awakened Hearts? This is the first book, my hope of many. As I've told people, we put a one on there because we want to see a whole series of these. I just for those of you who are watching that don't know the vision behind the book, as we started Awakened magazine about a year ago, I began to hear so many stories of awakening and believe that, man, if I could get these stories of awakening in the form of chapters and get a book in the hands of women and men who are going through transitions in life, who are questioning, is this all there is in life? Or they're in need of healing or a breakthrough, or maybe they've been having some intuitive experiences where they're going, why am I thinking this? Why am I hearing this? What's going on? That if they could read stories and those stories would be a mirror that you could see yourself in. And I truly believe you will see yourself in either Laura or Michelle or Christina's story or somebody else's stories. You will see your life through the mirror of that story. And it will cause you to ask questions and be inspired and go, man, if they can do it, if they can experience that breakthrough, if they can experience that awakening, if they can experience that healing, then I can too. And part of the desire in not only telling those stories that you would experience healing and transformation and being inspired, but that you would also feel the freedom to reach out to them. So at the end of each chapter, this is Marlu Harris, who is actually, she'll be joining us later this week for an author interview, that there's, Instagram, there's website, and then a QR code there where you can scan and get in touch with each of these individuals. And so the same thing is available in the book for Laura, Michelle, and Christina. They have their bio, their websites, their QR codes where you can get in touch with them. And that's part of the vision, is that you would be inspired by these chapters, but then you would also be able to have the chance to reach out to these people and say, oh, thank you. Thank you so much for writing, for being vulnerable. And perhaps they can help you in your journey as well. So, what are your hopes for Awakened Hearts as we're launching this out into the world this week? Laura, what are your hopes for your chapter and the book as well?
Well, just like you said, hopefully someone who's reading it will be able to see something and connect with somebody, with one of the authors. Maybe they'll feel a little better about themselves or feel seen with reading some of these stories. For my chapter, life isn't always linear, and that's okay. It's okay to follow your own passions, and as they change, and you're okay. It's okay to change. It's okay to move into something else. I hope that it will encourage the readers to live authentically, and whatever that means for them. And if there is something that they're being challenged with, that they'll have that, that strength, that inner knowing to be able to follow whatever that passion is. And if it means reaching out to somebody for support, then do that as well.
Mhm.
Wonderful. And how about you, Michelle? What are your hopes for your chapter in the book as well?
I hope that when someone reads my chapter, they don't feel alone. They say, oh my goodness, I feel that way. And that they get that like rise in their chest. That's like, oh my gosh, there's someone who feels exactly the way I do. And I want them to have that hope that they can change and make different choices and decisions that can transform their marriage and their relationships, even with their family and friends, because loving is a choice. Emotions and feelings, we get that. That is all part of love, but those things are fleeting. And my hope for the book is that it becomes a ripple effect, that it just starts with just that little drop, and then one person says, "Oh my gosh, you have to read this book." And then another says, "Oh yeah." And then it just spreads out through the world.
Mhm.
I think that it also can be inspiring for someone to share their own story and want to be a contributor to maybe volume number 2.
Mhm. Yeah, that would be great. I love that. That'd be fun. Yeah. Christina, how about you? What are your hopes for your chapter in the book as well?
Yeah. My hope is that whoever reads it really just knows it's never too late to reinvent and start over, however small or however big they feel inspired for that to be in their lives. And I think that we sometimes move through life and think it's too late, or I've made too many wrong turns, or I'm in too deep. And it's just not true. And it takes a lot of courage. And when you read another story, you can sometimes just see like, wow, there's hope, and there's ways I can take courage, find courage, or there are ways that maybe these things I feel about myself, maybe I can go get some help to help me realize. And whether it's energy healing or therapy or whatever it might be, a walk on the beach, a friend I can talk to, go get a cup of tea or whatever it might be, to help me shed some of these things that I'm carrying. So it's never too late to find hope and to start over, no matter where you are in life, and the ripple effect. Absolutely. So I know there's a lot of stories about love and grief and starting over. And I know that I've met a lot of amazing, incredible people. So I'm so excited to read the chapters myself and for that to ripple out into the world.
Oh, I'm
Wonderful.
excited to read them all too.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. You can get a copy at awakenedheartsbook.com. It's available in ebook. It's available in paperback as well as hardback. I do want to hear, before we sign off, where people can follow you and connect with you. Maybe share with us your website. And if you want to share a particular Instagram or something like that. How about you, Michelle? Where can people follow you and connect with you online?
You can connect with me at monarchforlove.com and also on Instagram at monarchforlove.com. That's the coaching, and you can connect with me even just to say hi. I'd love to meet you.
That's great. All right. And how about you, Laura?
Yeah, the best place to connect with me is my website, a funny thing happened on the way to my life.com, or on my Instagram, it's Laura_Muirhead_. And I'm active at both of those places. So there's a lot. I look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah. All right. And how about you, Christina? Where can people connect with you?
ChristinaLwoods.com, and my Instagram is Christina.lwoods. And I have a bunch of free audios and workbooks, and I would love to speak with you.
And all three of you work with people online. So no matter where people are in the world, they can connect with you, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Good stuff. Good. Well, it is wonderful to be with the three of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you for
you.
trusting me and us with your story. And it's a privilege to be able to work with you. And I am dedicated, and Awaken Magazine is dedicated to amplifying the voices of conscious leaders, healers, and coaches. And that's what we do with the magazine as well as with the book. And so I really would encourage you, pick up the book today at awakenedheartsbook.com. That'll take you right to the Amazon page where you can access the ebook, paperback, and hardback. Encourage you to pick it up, and would ask you to leave a review. That's a great way to help us spread the word about the book and how it can inspire other people. All right. So we'll be back here each day. Let's see. Tomorrow, Tuesday, is, I think, 2 p.m. Wednesday, 2 p.m. Thursday, 6 p.m. And Friday, 9 a.m. again, all Pacific time. And you can follow us at Awakened Magazine on Instagram, and you can get a free subscription to the magazine at awakenedmagazine.com/subscribe. All right, until next time, good to see you guys. Have a great day.